G'day mates, welcome back to my YouTube channel. You've probably already heard it, but yes, the Trio Cash Cups have been cancelled as well, which means the first week, the Solo and the Trio Cash Cups have now been cancelled, and this is now going to have an even bigger effect on other tournaments in the future. So I want to talk about what the schedule now looks like for tournaments because it has changed a fair bit. But before I get to that, I want to start off today's video talking about this whole FREEANDILEX situation. If you guys don't know, somehow Antics is an EU pro that has been blowing up lately, been absolutely popping off. He joined with an org, MCES, a little while ago, and it turns out it looks like he's in a contract that he's not too happy with. A whole bunch of pros, some of the biggest in EU, started the trend of free FREEANDILEX, very similar to the whole free Mitro situation. I just want to talk about this though. Is it actually a predatory contract, or is this just normal business? And just my general advice for players going into orgs and signing contracts, because there seems to be a big lack of understanding on how contracts should work in Fortnite, and there's a lot of pros being taken advantage of. Just quickly guys, if you haven't already, please check out my second YouTube channel. The link is in the top of the description down below. It is Extra Antics. We're posting daily shorts, edited highlight videos, a whole bunch of fantastic content. I'd really appreciate your support over there as well, so please check it out and click subscribe. Thank you so much. You've probably already seen something about this because, I mean, some of the biggest names in the business were tweeting out FREEANDILEX. I mean, you had Ops, Moda, Wolfies, iDrop, CRR, Milan, Leshy, like that's just to name a few. So big people are talking about this, and kind of to summarize what the community's like view on it right now is Moda tweeted out, .@AnticsFN is stuck in a contract just like Mitro was in Atlantis. That's why hashtag FREEANDILEX. But it gets a little bit deep in this. It gets a little bit weirder. One of the main things that started this movement or got it a bit more traction was when someone on a fake Antics account actually made the same tweet, hashtag FREEANDILEX, and he said, please. Now, that isn't actually Antics. We haven't seen any real information come out from him, but based on this being from a lot of big EU pros who would know Antics well, I have to imagine that potentially he did talk to him about his contract, but I think the situation is a little bit deeper and a little bit different to what's going on or what went on between Mitro and Atlantis. If you haven't seen it, Mitro's spotlight on Liquid's channel is insane. I'll link in the description. Definitely go give it a watch when you're done this video. But Mitro and Atlantis was different. That was predatory. He was actually at the point where his family was being split apart over how upsetting his contract was with Atlantis and how they were treating him, what he was being put through. I don't think that's the same from what I can see with MCES, and this is what I need to talk about. So I need to give a big disclaimer here. This is an assumption. I'm guessing based on MCES not making a statement, Antics himself not making a statement. I don't think the contract is insanely predatory. What I think has happened is Antics has signed a contract or re-signed, because he did actually re-sign with them. He signed once with MCES and then he re-signed again at a later date. And I think when he re-signed, he was starting to blow up. He was starting to pop off. He started to do really well in FNCS. Now his value is worth way more than what he was. MCES doesn't want to release him, but that's not a predatory contract. That's not an org that should be shamed and publicly should start a hashtag to get a player unsigned. That's just how contracts work. When you join an org, when you join a contract, they're signing you on the hope that you then pop off and you're worth even more in the future than what they signed you for. You're signing the contract because you want some extra financial stability, you want some extra money, you want some extra help. You're hoping that whatever you sign for is what your value is in a little while, or you're worth less than that and you're getting more money. That's kind of the trade-off between orgs and players. If we're going off the assumption that the contract isn't insanely predatory, it's not like a $5 a month contract, it's still a decent contract that Antics was happy to sign at the time, then it's not really fair on MCES that a hashtag goes viral, a bunch of pros talk about it, a lot of people now think that MCES is a bad org and they have to drop their player because of it. That's just not how contracts and businesses work. We need to kind of change this mentality. We need to get people to have a better understanding in the Fortnite community of how contracts work. Obviously, if it comes out that MCES made him sign a terrible contract, he was pressured into it and the terms are awful, that's completely different. That's where the community backs pro players, and same in the past with Mitro, has done awesome things to help people who signed a contract they shouldn't have. But at the end of the day, when you sign a contract, you sign to those terms. It doesn't matter what changes in the future. You need to make sure you're across that. But Fortnite are kids. We are talking about kids here. We're talking about predominantly 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds who are signing contracts for thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars. You need to make sure you get this stuff read properly. You need to make sure you take it seriously because this is legally binding. One of the other big things that I'd love to see happen in esports in general, not just Fortnite, is contracts start to become more public. Like, for example, like Neymar, Ronaldo, Messi, when any big football player is signed, you know how much the contract is for, you know what their buyout clause is, you know all of it. It's out there. So players know what they're worth. They know what they should get paid. So then the power isn't on the team or the org to try to, tell them, oh, all the players are getting $100 a month. This is a good contract. You should sign it. You can turn around and say, no, that guy who has worse placements than me, less social following, he's getting $2,000 a month. Why should I not get that? We need to make it more public, but I also understand why pros don't want to make it public because there's a lot of judgment, especially in a scene that's a fair bit younger. But I'd love to see something like that. I'd love to see orgs release contracts and let people know how much they're paying their players, because then we also know which of these orgs are treating their players really well and which are trying to take advantage. If maybe Antics is being mistreated by MCES, and I don't want to say that, it shouldn't take until a bunch of pros tweet out a hashtag for us to know that. If the contracts were public, we know who's treating their team really, really well. But the last thing I want to talk about is the length of contract. Unless you're joining a top tier org, Liquid, TSM, NRG, FaZe, any of those ones, and again, don't come at me for anyone I didn't include then. I'm not going to say them all, but you know the ones, right? Unless you're joining an org like that, or unless for some reason you think that your worth is going to go down, sign a shorter contract, 3 months or 6 months, absolutely max. If you sign a 3-month contract, you say sign, let's just say for $2,000 a month, but then you go and win the next FNCS, you're now worth, 5 times more. It's only a 3-month contract. You can then leverage that, go back to your org and say, hey, if you want to keep me, you need to pay me this much more. If they say no, well, there you go. Your contract expires soon. Go join another org. It shouldn't be these long contracts that pro players get stuck in. We need to avoid this. Remember, guys, if you haven't already as well, check out my Twitter. I'll put the link in the description down below. It's just at Aussie Antics. A lot of the stuff that kind of happens in these videos, or any developments we have that don't make an entire video, for example, we get information about Andilex's contract and stuff. Normally, I give my opinions over there, so make sure you check it out. I might make another video on this situation. Again, I really, really hope Antilex isn't just in a terrible situation. He's been taken advantage of. I just want to see the numbers and I want to see the contracts before we start slamming an org who hasn't really done anything wrong. Now, moving on to the sad news, not only did our solo cash cups get cancelled this week, but the trio cash cups as well. Fortnite Competitive tweeted out, we are still investigating the matchmaking issue from earlier this weekend. Because of this, we'll be cancelling tomorrow's cash cups. They also then replied to that saying, due to the same issue, we are also cancelling the upcoming hype cups. I know, incredibly sad, but it also gets worse. You already saw it. I talked about it in a video a few days ago. We had DreamHack coming back with the DreamHack Cash Cup Extra. The way that was going to work was they were going to take the top 132 teams from the NA East and EU Cash Cups, and they were going to play in the DreamHack Cash Cup Extra this week. That's going to have to be canceled as well. We don't have any statement on it, but I have to assume it's canceled, because if you can't play the Trio Cash Cups in place, how are you going to play DreamHack? So we've now lost all of our tournaments to start off the week. It is a terrible, terrible start to the competitive season. Obviously, pros are really, really upset. I'm going to let my editor just roll a few of the tweets up here, but you can imagine what they're going to be like. But at the same time, one thing I would like to say that I was pretty happy with this announcement is not too many pros were actually really, really abusive towards Epic. Some were, but a lot of them were just more disappointed and upset, and I really do want to see that narrative change. It's fine to be upset about these things. I'm upset as well. I was so excited for these cash cups, do my viewing parties. I was going to do a trio drop spot and update video on where all the teams are going, who they're playing with. Trust me, I'm upset too, but I really do hate when the pros get super, super abusive. They start calling Epic a terrible company. You're awful. You have no idea what you're doing. All this, I get it. It's unfortunate. It's a rough situation, and I always hear oh, why does this happen in other esports? It's because other esports don't have weekly 100,000, tens of thousands of dollars of opens tournaments that anyone can just join up through a game. That's always going to have issues. I'm upset by this as well. I want to expect that nothing ever goes wrong. But when things go wrong, remember, that's why it happens in Fortnite, not other games. Because no other game is doing this. All their events are in person. They're LAN events. They're closed off. They're not just these open events that millions of people play in all the time. So I get it. It's upsetting, but you got to be a little bit more chill on it. Got to try and build up this relationship with Epic because the communication's gotten better. At least we got told in a tweet a few days out that things aren't working and they called it off early rather than trying to let it run, trying to fix the issues like they used to do in the past, it not work, and then all of a sudden no one can queue for the tournament and we get, you know, not even a 1 minute heads up that it's canceled. It gets canceled midway through. At least we now know it's going to be canceled. The one thing that I'm sad that we haven't had the communication on though is we haven't really heard about whether it's going to be rescheduled. This is a lot of money. This is now, you know, 2 cash cups in almost every region and the DreamHack event, and we have no word of when it's going to be played out after this, or even if it is, do we just miss out on the cash cups, or next week do we get super excited because we have double trio cash cup and double solo cash cups with a double DreamHack? You know what I mean? Like, I want to get excited. Where are the tournaments going? And I know what people are going to start to say, Aussie, you work for Epic, you know, you're always on Epic's side. Like, I get it, guys. I'm upset as well. This is annoying. It's difficult. I wish it didn't happen. All I'm trying to do is build up that relationship where we continue this communication going between Epic and the community. And I think Epic is stepping up in the communication department. And I think the pros and other people are getting better at not being too vocally negative. I think things have improved, but I think it's going to take the competitive to be a little bit more compassionate, a bit more understanding. And the better we respond to bad news and bad situations like this, I think the better the communication is going to be from Epic and the more we're going to be rewarded. That's all I'm saying is when I look on these tweets, all you see is just a whole bunch of people and pros just bashing Epic, telling them they're terrible, you're awful. That's not going to make them motivated to do much for us. I'm just trying to change that narrative and try to get the community to see it maybe from Epic's point of view, because I'm kind of in the middle. I get to deal with the guys at Epic when I do the FNCS broadcast. They're amazing people. I absolutely love working with them. They honestly love the game as well. It's just a big company with a lot of moving parts, and I think the community needs to understand that just a little bit better. Alright guys, that does it for another video. If you enjoyed it, please chuck a like on it. Let me know in the comments section down below your thoughts on the whole FREEANDILEX situation. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. Check out my second YouTube channel, like I said in the intro, link in the description down below. I would massively, massively appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.